Hey guys, I wanted to make a quick beginners videos for Mac, for a very long time now. So I will try to explain and show you the essentials of the Mac operating system as if I'm explaining it to my brothers and sisters, something that I've done a lot for the past 5 years. So throw away any intimidation, or doubt that you might have, because the Mac is a very pleasant and easy to use system. Let's start with a few major aspects of the Mac OS that you should know about. The control button on Windows is the command key. On the Mac, if you are coming from a Windows computer and you are used to Control plus C to copy, for example, you will quickly get used to the same shortcuts. But instead of using Command plus C to copy, you use Command plus V to paste. This is the same principle that goes for the rest of the command, and I will make sure to put the most common use shortcut at the end of this video. So once you get used to using commands, going back to control feel less exciting. So another thing to understand is that to understand and get used on the Mac, it is a very drag and drop oriented system. As you use it, you notice that you can easily drag and drop files, text images, and everything else all around the operating system. Next, if you like to delete something, you can just drag it in the trash can. You can eject a disk by dragging it to the trash can, or you can delete a file or an app or even a color from your color palette simply by dragging it to the trash can. The startup menu control panel can also remove programs. If you don't need something for the most part, you can just put it in the trash can. Of course, if you haven't emptied the trash, restoring it is just as simple as out of the box. The right click on the Mac, you just right click by pressing the control button and then click with the cursor. Here, the proper right click needs to be enabled in the settings. So the next thing to know about the Mac is that the app come in a DMG format or Windows. On Windows you are used to installing the files with EXE or executable exemption, but on the Mac it uses DMG. DMG stands for Mac OS Disk Image File. When you download a program for the Mac, it is in DMG. Think of DMG as if you are inserting a CD with a software in it. When you open a DMG file, it even looks and acts as if you have inserted a physical disk in a computer. Once you are done with the disk, you can simply eject it. Next thing you need to know is quitting applications. When you press the S on the app, which we will talk about more in a second, you don't quit the app, you just close the app's active window. Now, some apps can quit themselves when you press S, but the majority will stay active. If you like to really quit them, you can press Command C, cure, or go to the menu of the app. It's like iPhone when you swipe up to the home page, but the app stays active. If the app freezes, you can force quit it by going to the Apple menu and opening the force quit windows. This window show you all active apps and you can select and force quit. Those that might read not responding, as I mentioned, will show you some shortcut at the end. One of them being force. By the way, if you are enjoying this video, please make sure that it gives me a thumbs up. So next up there is no cut on the Mac. It's only to copy, just like I say, drag and drop. So it doesn't require to cut anything. If you want to do anything, just drag it and drop it. And the final thing to know about the Mac is that there's no need to turn off your Mac computer. You can just put it to sleep. I might shut down my Mac maybe once a year, if not even less. The rest of the time I just close it, or put it to sleep. Then I come back to exactly where I left off. So don't worry, putting it to sleep instead of shutting it down won't clog it. So once you power off the Mac, you are greeted by the desktop, just like on Windows. You can put files and folders on your desktop, just like on any computer. You can even have more than one desktop. This is a useful feature if you can run multiple applications at the same time and you want to move around your desktop easily. On the top of that desktop, you see the menu bar. If you come from is the same as the menu bar on any Windows machine, but it is glued to the top of the Mac OS. So instead of being part of the menu window, with that being said, the menu changes depending on the app that is being used. If I open Apple Music now, I see the menu bar for Apple Music. If I tap on the browser, I see the browser menu. The two elements are always the same. However, there are little Apple logo on the very top left, which is the Apple menu, and the two bar items on the right where the clock is. Consider the Apple menu as your global menu that always stays the same. It holds the primary function of the Mac. It's like shutting it down or restarting it, or simply opening the Mac OS system preferences, which is like control panel on Windows. The two bar on the right can hold various little icons that could be an extension of an app, like a quick menu or a standalone simple app that just lives in the toolbar menu. On the bottom, there is the dock. The purpose of the dock is to serve as your constant app and Windows folder. While you work, you can place and rearrange the apps that sit on the dock so that they match your workflow. If you minimize a window, for example, it slides down in the dock, ready to be expanded again. When you open an app, even if it's not an app that lives in the dock, you will notice that it appears there while using it. When you quit an app, it will disappear unless you tell it to stay there. Now, some apps have little light dot on the bottom. This dot indicates that the app is active. If it doesn't have a dot, it's not running. You can add some quick access to folders like downloads. Right beside the trash can. The dock can be modified a lot. It can be as filled, as big, or as minimal or invisible if necessary. Before we move to the next feature, I would like to briefly mention interacting with Mac OS Windows and the Windows, on the Windows operating system. The three Windows control buttons on Mac OS are on the left side instead of on the right. They are like the traffic, indicating that the three primary functions, red, yellow, minimize, and green, expand. Each app or window has those little traffic buttons for control, but they are on the same left key. All apps on the Mac live in the application folder. They can be started from the application folder, yet the more convenient choice would be to use the launchpad. The launchpad lives in the dock, but it can be triggered by a gesture or in many other ways. The launchpad is just like the iPhone, a bunch of app icons that you can rearrange and organize in folders to simply use to launch most of Mac OS. Settings can be found by going to Apple menu and opening system preferences, from changing the desktop wallpaper to setting up keyboard input method, and of course accessibility, including enabling the right key on the mouse. It can be found there. Feel free to go all over the aspect of the settings panel to learn how you can customize your Mac according to your choices. At the end of this video, I will put some other guides on how to set up a mic, which you can use as a guide. So the next thing is Spotlight. Spotlight is the little search icon on the menu bar on top, and you can think of it as a global system search. If you look for a file, photo, or even a dictionary explanation, you can do it with Spotlight. You can trigger it Spotlight by pressing on that little magnifying glass, But the quickest and most used Spotlight action for me is to use Command plus space, and typing right away is fun. This is how I use Spotlight most of the time. I just summon it. As soon as I start typing the first few letters, I can hit enter and start the app. I can also do simple calculation on the fly. The Finder is the cornerstone of macOS. It is the equivalent of Windows Explorer. This is the app that allows you to access all your files on the computer. The desktop you first saw when you start a Mac is part of the Finder by default. For every Mac user, the OS creates a folder. Mine is called a string, and under it you can see some of the default folders that are used throughout the system, like desktop music, photos, documents, downloads, and others. You can customize the interface of the Finder to fit in your needs. I prefer to keep mine as clean as possible and always in the list view. I find the icons view confusing and messy sometimes. By creating a folder in the Finder is very simple. Simply right-click on an empty space to create a folder. If you want to rename it, just press on it again, or use the right-click menu for more options. The Finder has a great built-in features to archive files. If I select a bunch of files, I can quickly right-click on them and choose Archive. And just like that, I can send an archive to someone. As mentioned earlier, deleting something on the Mac, including apps from the application folder, is a matter of dragging them to the trash can. By far, the most useful features on the Mac is the preview of files. No matter if it is video or a photo, you can hit space while the file is selected and preview the selection. If there are numerous images, for example, you can just hit space to preview one of them and then use the arrow keys to move around and preview the rest. Talking about preview is the default all-in-one app that can open almost anything. Preview can open documents, presentations, images, PDF files, and more right out of the box. Safari is the default browser on the Mac. It's just like Edge on Windows. It's a great browser that can work in synchronization with your iPhone. You can, of course, install other browsers like Chrome, but I always prefer Safari. The App Store is very similar to the app on the iPhone. If you are looking to install apps, you find a suitable solution in the application store. Of course, you can install apps that are not in the App Store, but we talk that one later. The main thing is to remember about the App Store is that every app can be considered secure and tested. If you are to install an app that is not part of the App Store, you will most likely end up downloading a DMG file. When you open a DMG file, 90% of the time, you will have a hint to drag the app itself from the DMG file to your computer's application folder. Think of it as if you are moving a song from a CD to your hard drive in many cases. App developers show you this action with a little arrow and a shortcut to your apps folder to save you time. Once the app is dragged into the application folder, the DMG is no longer necessary and can be ejected and later deleted. If necessary, if you like to delete an app that was downloaded from the App Store, you can open the Launchpad and hold on an app until they start jiggling. Once jiggling, you can see the S icon on the app that comes from the Apple Store that can be simply deleted by pressing on it. Going back for a moment to the drag and drop inclination of macOS, I would like to give you an example by showing you a clever app called Yoink. Yoink helps you drag files much easier than the default method. Think of it as a shelf for your files. Drag files you like to move to Yoink. Put your mouse free, navigate to their destination, and then drag the files out of Yoink to where they are supposed to go. Yoink is a paid app, but instead of paying separately for it, you can take full advantage of Yoink and over 230 plus premium apps as part of Setup. Setup is a productivity service that helps you solve various tasks on your Mac. Instead of individually paying for premium apps where you have to leave credit card details across multiple websites, you have a one-stop subscription to solve every task on the Mac, with more and more premium apps and features being added regularly. Setup you can help you be on top of the app. You might try it for 14 days. 14 days this thing. So the next thing I would like to point out is iCloud. iCloud is base system and storage that is an integral part of Mac. Always, as soon as you set up your Mac, you will be asked to sign in to create an iCloud account. You can of course omit that option, but I recommend you take advantage of it. iCloud allows you to synchronize your data with your other micro Apple devices. You can also take advantage of iCloud Drive. iCloud Drive is like having a hard drive but online. Whatever you put on iCloud, you can access it from anywhere. I have a dedicated iCloud video on how I used to run my personal life and my business. So here are the most important shortcuts. You most likely end up using Command plus Q to quit an app, Command plus C, copies, Command plus V, paste, Command plus H hides an app or a window, Command plus space fires up Spotlight, and Command plus tab tabulates or moves around the active apps. Command plus space changes the language input. Command plus I opens additional info about a file. Command plus F search and find something somewhere. Command plus or minus zoom in out of text or an interface on the browser option. Command and escape opens up the force quit menu. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure that you give me a thumbs up. See you next time. Thank you.